let people interact with us, ask us questions about our priorities, initiatives, projects, and things that we're going to be doing in the new year and moving forward. So I can start out just by saying my name is Ved Price. I am the executive director here at the Alliance for Higher Education in Prison. I've been here since July of last year. I did work at the Alliance previously a couple of years back, and got to really get into the weeds of the work that the Alliance does and understand the gravity of this position, which every single day when I wake up and look in my inbox, I'm really still understanding the gravity of this position when I see who we engage with and who our audience is. So my background is really around reentry, especially housing, education, and employment, lots of direct services. Here in Denver, Colorado. I'm originally from Georgia, so I've been out here for like 7 years. And yeah, just happy to be with everybody today. I look forward to some generative conversation. And we're down one team member, and that's because she is moving into her new house today. So exciting news, happy for that. So she's not here, that's Mary Evans. But Allison, Lopez, and Susie Bannon are both here. I'll pass it to them to do their intros, and then we can dive into some of the meat of the conversation.
Hi, everybody. I'm Allison Lopez. I just started working with the Alliance at the end of November, and I'm really excited to be in this position. I'm doing operations and development, and it's been a great experience so far, just supporting the team and with the new direction and exciting new projects. I live in Oakland, and my background is in I worked for MTC doing the college prep program and student support services, and I've worked in employment services at a shelter, and yeah, a lot of direct services, a lot of resource navigation, and this is a little bit different of a position for me. So I'm excited for the opportunity. I'm learning a lot already, and I'm excited to get an idea of what everyone thinks the field needs right now today as we talk about it. All right, over to you, Susie.
Thanks, Allison. Hey, everyone. I'm Susie Bannon, and I'm serving as the Assistant Director at the Alliance for Higher Education in Prison. I've been with the organization since December, so I'm still very new. And like Allison, I am learning a lot. I made my way to this role via higher education. I was a lecturer for 3 years at Texas State University, but prior to that, I actually first came in contact with Higher Ed in Prison as someone who was incarcerated here in Texas. I served as a post-secondary tutor during my incarceration, went to college after I came home, finished my degree, went on to get graduate degrees, finished my PhD in 2020. I came in contact with the Alliance before it was even the Alliance, really, at one of the first NCHEPs. I can't remember if it was in 2013, but that's when I met Mary Gould. I met a whole lot of people, a few people that are in the town hall today. It's wonderful to see your names, and I can't believe that that was 10 years ago. And so it really feels kind of cool and full circle that I'm now working for the organization that I believe so much in. And I'm really excited to kick things off for this year. We have a lot of cool stuff planned, and I'm looking forward to hearing from some of you today.
Thank you, Susie and Allison. So I guess we can dive in. I think the first thing that I want to say, and I've been always thinking about this, even when I was working here in the past, is like, who is the Alliance, right? Like, who is it? And it's like, is it the people who are on staff, or who is it? And for me, I think everybody here on this call and everybody who's a part of this field and is part of the Alliance. So moving forward, we hope to create a setting where it feels like that, where people's voices are included and we're responsive to the needs of the field. So in my eyes, I think everybody who's here in this call and as part of this field is the Alliance and informs the work of the Alliance. So I want to state that. I'll just dive right into it so we can get some of the stuff out the way and we can have some open dialogue and conversation around what we're going to be doing this year. So some of our biggest priorities, starting with, is that Sean Libby? What's good, Sean? Nice to see you. What is up?
How you doing, man? Good to see you too.
I'm doing good. Good to see you in here, man. So yeah, I think the thing that's going to frame a lot of our work for this year and moving forward is building buy-in. So this is looking at everything that's going to make somebody interested or help somebody become interested in education, whether that's at the advanced master's, doctorate level, whether that's career, vocational tech, whether that's a certification. So whatever sort of education people are interested in, we're looking at figuring out how to get people interested. And so where this came from is that, I'm thinking, for every one person that's in a classroom, there's hundreds of people who aren't in a classroom and who don't even desire to be in a classroom and don't even feel like the classroom is a place for them. So how can we convince these people that the classroom is a place for them and that there is value in education, right? For a lot of people here who haven't experienced incarceration, it's easy to see the importance of education. It's easy to say, education, I'm going to get a job, and I'm going to get to work. For a lot of the incarcerated population, it's like, look, I got 10 felonies. Nobody's going to hire me. It doesn't matter what degrees I get. It doesn't matter what I do. So how can we debunk these myths? How can we prove to people who are incarcerated that their education will be valuable? I'll also acknowledge that education is absolutely valuable outside of career workplace stuff. I 100% understand the value of it for self-actualization, for somebody understanding the worldview, understanding the circumstances that they're in, and just understanding life in general, building reasoning skills and all these other things. But I think it's also a privilege to be able to care about education for just self-actualization, right? People who need resources, that's one of the biggest things that's going to build buy-in for education. So I've had the privilege since I've been in this job to talk to almost like 800 students since July. And so that's where I've been spending my time. So if I haven't really been in the public eye, it's been because I've been in the backgrounds, like talking to everybody, like people on this call, but also like lots of students, like lots and lots of students, to make sure that what I'm saying is accurate and is coherent with what they are wanting. So building buy-in is kind of what's going to frame and shape our work. So I can move into a couple of our project areas. And the first one is going to be what's going to probably consume the bulk of our time and energy moving forward, at least in the near future. This project is one that I hope generates some momentum in everybody's circle in this call and even outside of it. So like, say it, just say it. So it's going to be focused on creating internship opportunities and fellowship opportunities for people who are currently incarcerated. Paid internship and fellowship opportunities for people who are currently incarcerated. At or above living wage, at or above minimum wage. So this initiative and project encompasses a lot of different things that overlap. It encompasses reentry. It encompasses workforce development, job readiness, and it also puts dollars in people's pockets. So the reason this came up is from lots of conversations with people, and a lot of people who are currently incarcerated getting degrees, associates, bachelor's, master's, and still having 7, 8, 9, 10 years left on their sentence, right? And the question is, how much pep do you want me to have? How much education, how many degrees do you want me to have, right? Like at some point, I want to apply this, I want to use it, right? And I'd love to apply that. So part of what we're looking at is looking at how to create avenues for people to apply their education while they're incarcerated and make money, right? So the thing is people coming home and everybody wants to talk about reentry once people come home, right? So, and then people coming home with $0 in their pocket. How great would it be if those 5 extra 10 years or whatever, that somebody could make a few $1,000s and come home with money to get an apartment, get housing, get a driver's license, get a car, these sorts of things, instead of having to go to a nonprofit and beg a case manager for, a security deposit for an apartment for 1 month, something like that, right? And so and also not having the opportunity to apply your education and coming home with these advanced degrees and no resume, nothing on your resume that shows experience, right? So years ago, this might have been, questionable and hard to do. Since 2020, with the virtual space becoming more accepted in DOCs, this is something that's becoming much more realistic. So we're going to spend a lot of our energy focusing on creating these opportunities, building these relationships with DOCs, understanding the policies that need to be navigated to create these avenues, so what it would look like to pay somebody, whether the money goes on somebody's books, whether it goes into an escrow, whether it goes into their reentry fund, all of these sorts of things. And then also, not just focusing on employment and internship opportunities and fellowship opportunities, not just for reentry, but for people who might have these longer sentences, who aren't even considering reentry right now, right? But some of these people have families, they have kids, they have communities, and it would be nice for people to be able to contribute to their family, sending money home, paying for utilities, paying for rent. How nice would it be for somebody to be able to still contribute to their family, even though, they're not there physically? And the other side of this, and talking to a lot of people who are parents who are incarcerated, is the collateral consequences that the kids suffer when there's a parent missing from the household, right? And so those resources being split in half, so not having all the resources anymore. So people want to be able to send money home to their families, to their kids, food, all these sorts of things. And then, for people who might not necessarily have that, people want to be able to put money on their books, right? They want to be able to just get some food, get some of the necessities. So in speaking to students too, a lot of times there were times where students are having to choose between going to chow or going to class. And sometimes going to class means you're going to get a cold meal 3 hours later, or you might not even get chow, right? And so people having money to be able to buy their own food would help too. So happy to dive into this more, but for the sake of brevity, I'll move on to the next project area that we're looking at creating. And this is where the news is, the big news, the cool news, breaking news, right? That's everything now. So NCHEP, everybody's been asking NCHEP, when is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Where is it going to happen? It's going to happen. We're going to do it. We're going to do it in person. It's going to happen this year, and it's going to be in Atlanta, Georgia in November. So for everybody who's here in this call, you're the first people to hear this. You can spread that word to your circles. We'll be putting out messaging soon around the logistics, around the theme. More details to come soon. So look out for that. And if you know anybody who's interested in finding out more information, just tell them to look on our website, check out our media, and all of that stuff will be there. So with that, with NCHEP, part of the format of NCHEP is going to change a bit, at least for this year, as we look to close the distance, which is partially going to be the theme. So many of you all have heard me say, I want to, at least I know I want to, and I'm sure everybody on our team wants to, we want to close the distance between the inside and outside until there's no more inside. So the theme is going to be closing the distance. And so with that, the hope is that the first day of the conference is presented by people who are currently incarcerated, strictly and exclusively. So creating opportunities for people to present their research, their art, their projects, anything that they're working on, scholarly, even culinary, anything, present that stuff on the first day of the conference, and it's going to be designated to them to really set the tone for closing the distance and to give precedence to the people that we serve and the reason that we're doing this work. So with that, the rest of the conference, the format for that is still up for discussion. We're looking at different approaches for that right now, but the first day is definitely going to be that, and that's how we're going to kick it off. So more to come there. And I think I can pause there. I don't know, Susie or Allison, if you want to chime in on anything, feel free to do that. We definitely have a lot of other priority areas that we're going to be still working to convene experts around. I can't say that I intend on being the expert on any and everything Pell, nor do I desire to be. And I don't plan on being the expert on any and everything regarding HEP. But we do know that there are experts in the field that we would like to convene to talk about these various issues. And so we will continue to do that. But other topics we're concerned about and we care about: student support services, career services, campus policies, pathways to campus, reentry, all of these sorts of things are still going to be projects, areas, and areas of interest for us where we will convene discussions and work around. So anyways, I'll pause there. Allison, Susie, if you want to say anything, feel free to hop in. Also, if anybody in the audience wants to, what up? If anybody else in the audience wants to hop in, ask questions, join us in discussion, feel free to do that. We are also looking for feedback on what the Alliance can do to make sure that we're responsive to what the field needs. And so we hope that we can gather some information here as well.
Yeah, I just want to add exactly that. As the assistant director, I want the field to know that my ears are always open. I want to hear from the HEP community on all of the issues that we discussed today and beyond. I think, we as new leadership in this robust organization that, has done so much in the field, we're still getting our footing in terms of like what the Alliance looks like for us moving forward. And so one of the key components of the Alliance leading up to this moment has been the community focused aspect, always wanting to have feedback from the community, always wanting to listen to all voices. So I know that my email is always open. I can drop it in the chat for everyone. Please feel free to reach out. I'm up for Zooms. I'm up for phone calls. If you're in the Austin, Texas area, I'm up for coffee. And so please consider me a resource and a listening ear. And I am so pumped for Atlanta. It's going to be amazing.
Allison, if you can jump in, you don't have to. I know I didn't be like prepare something to say, so totally no pressure. But if anybody wants to like hop in and just help us pull to the surface anything that you all are thinking about for this field, thinking about things that the Alliance is poised to do with its position, happy to entertain that. I mean, one of our biggest goals is to drive not just visibility to this field, but resources to this field. And so we really want to work on that. So yeah, just full open discussion. You can ask me personal questions. I mean, this is just kind of like a town hall, get to know the team, and we can get to know you all. So.
Ved, we have a question about the specific dates of the Atlanta conference.
Yeah, it is the second week in November. I think it's 9th, 10th, 11th. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I think that's the 9th, 10th, or 11th, or it's either the 8th, 9th, 10th, but yeah.
9th through the 11th is correct.
Cool. And the format of the conference is going to change a bit, and I can explain that, but I want to leave the space for questions and whatnot. I'm happy to talk about the format and the spirit of the conference too, if anybody wants to know about that.
Mary Cusack commented that in terms of paid work, they'd like to see students become eligible for federal work study.
They will be eligible for work study dollars. Mm-hmm. They actually are still, not even prior to Pell, they're still actually eligible for work study dollars. That never went away. That's something that you have to convince the institution to consider distributing the dollars to the currently incarcerated population.
And Jennifer Gomez posed a question about supporting incarcerated students with disability rights. How can we get assessments from within prisons so we can accommodate students with disabilities? Is this on anyone's radar? yes, it is on our radar.
It's on ours for sure. In terms of like just direct resources that I have for you off the top right now, I can't provide any right now, just be honest. But I know hopefully if there's people in the audience, because like I said, everybody here is the Alliance, not just these 3 people on staff or 4 people on staff, but everybody here is part of the Alliance. So if anybody does have any resources, please drop some of that stuff. I've read some recent literature around this support though. So
Hey, Ben, I'll chime in here real quick. So I've heard you definitely talk a little bit about kind of what you're doing kind of in the moment, and it sounds like some really great things. I guess I would be kind of interested in what is your vision for like the next 5 years, or your kind of your vision for the immediate future of the Alliance?
good question. There's more than I could say that I could probably fit here, but I think one of the biggest visions for the Alliance is to continue to keep the field in communication with itself and each other in the field. Continue to drive resources and visibility to this field and highlight research and work that's being done and creating co-learning spaces and opportunities for people. So I think, when the Alliance was originally conceived, there was not really a level of self-awareness within the field of how big this field was, which is why the Landscape Project and the National Directory has been an amazing tool, because that allowed people to really look in a visual format and see what all is happening out here, to really see like how many people are doing this work. I know working in HEP is an isolated place. Working in a prison is even more isolated. A lot of people are just like working in the corners of their departments, at their institution. So I would say the biggest vision would be to continue to build and create community in the various ways that looks, and convene the experts, right? And I think there's going to be a need for that, especially once Pell comes on and people are going to be asking a lot of questions and people are going to want answers. And so, we're going to try to make sure that we're able to identify the people who can answer those questions. The biggest vision for me still from talking to students is the education in action. And that also translates to research, applied research. We want to see more applied research versus just research that produce reports that sit on websites that, maybe a few people read, that doesn't get in the hands of policymakers and lawmakers to inform, systems changes. So looking at things like that. So really that, and then focusing on the student experience, how that can be enhanced, and being a hub for resources. So maybe not necessarily being the expert on topics, but being a hub where you can find experts and research and resources. So I'm still going to say we're going to dedicate a bunch of our time to because it's a way heavier lift than it sounds. I'm pretty sure some of you get it, but creating these the arc for the fellowships and internship opportunities is to eventually look at how part-time and full-time jobs can happen for people who are incarcerated. And then even exploring things like work leave, work furloughs, education leave, things like that, and helping DOCs understand the policies that they actually have discretion over to let people do things that they might not even be aware about when it comes to some of this stuff. So based on talking to students want the opportunity to apply their education. And that's what we're really focused on right in the here and now.
Bed, we had a couple of questions. One is there a current list of institutions approved to offer programs through Pell for the incarcerated population? And the second is, which states are we currently in talks with and how is that being organized?
The first part of that question, can you ask that again? I'm sorry.
Sure. Is there a current list of institutions approved to offer programs through Pell for the incarcerated population?
To my knowledge, I think there is, but I would love to defer to the community, the rest of the Alliance community, to maybe answer if anybody knows that definitively. Margaret, I'm just going to Anyway,
I'll put it in the chat. There's a list of second chance Pell colleges. No colleges have yet been approved to be prison education programs under the new regulations, since those don't take effect till July, but I'll post the other list.
You know when that would possibly be out? I mean, since they're approved to offer programs starting then in October, will the list not come out till July?
So it's a longer answer. I don't want to take away from Ved's meeting, but because each state has to come up with its process of approving prison education programs, I would expect it'll be, I don't know, 3 to 18 months until we have like a big list of approved prison education programs. But the second chance Pell colleges that are operating now, there's 200 across 48 states, DC and Puerto Rico, they continue. So that will happen while the PEP approval process is getting worked out.
Okay, thank you.
the second half of that question was, what states have we talked to already? Talking to Colorado, California, Maine, and Ohio right now. It's kind of starting at the DOC level, which is the one who will be able to understand how to navigate the policies around like how to pay somebody while they're incarcerated. I'll say Maine is probably leading the pack in this right now and has hashed out a lot of these details already. The Alliance is going to be a landing spot for somebody who's currently incarcerated to do an internship / fellowship. And that's going to start soon. So we are working strictly, I mean, not strictly, but we've been working heavily with Maine because we would love to explore. I see Stephen on this call too. What's good, Stephen, out there in Maine? They're doing some big stuff out there, and we would love to get some of that stuff, model it, and then create opportunities for other states to kind of look at what Maine's doing and then integrate some of that stuff to make it an easier lift for people who want to do similar things outside of Maine. Stephen, I don't know if you want to chat more about what it's been like in Maine. Feel free to hop in.
Yeah, thank you, Ved. How's everybody doing? It's nice to be here today. We our administration, we've created a new model called the Maine Model of Corrections. And what we're trying to do is really mirror a lot of the work that Norway is doing right now with Halden Prison. We've created an earned living unit here where we have a lot more freedom and flexibility. And within that, currently one of our residents here, he's actually teaching college from his prison cell. Which is actually really amazing. And he's running some other opportunities. Myself, I'm running an exchange each month to bring together folks that are in criminal justice and prison reform circles. And what we're trying to do is foster a conversation and create a higher level of consciousness about what is possible. In relationship to the work itself, the DOC right now, they are looking at what they do at the minimum facility as far as pay is concerned. Myself and 2 other residents, one of them happens to be on this call as well, Sean, we just sat down with the deputy commissioner and with the warden here at the facility. And what they're looking at doing is we can get full pay, just a salary paid position, but they're going to take 10% of that and put it back into the state fund. The reasoning behind that is if somebody in society says, why are you allowing them to have a job on the inside? The DOC in return can say, well, what they're doing is they're contributing back. They're contributing back into the state fund. And the other part of that, Ved, is if the person has restitution or victim fees or child support, that would immediately come out of whatever the pay is that's coming in. So ultimately, the silver lining in all of this is the incarcerated resident can take care of their obligations. They can save money for being released. And in addition, they can support their families. And in my particular situation, I'm moving forward with a PhD. It's a perfect opportunity to be able to pay for my own education. And I have to rely on other people or reach out for scholarships. And I suspect in the next probably couple of weeks, there's going to be more revealed to us about what's actually taking place. But we're working We've had talks with you. We've talked with Rebecca from Jobs from the Future. And we have a lot of other talks going on right now, trying to bring in organizations. And I think once we get that policy, we'll provide it to the Alliance, just so you have a framework that you can share with other folks out there. So thank you all. I hope everybody has a blessed day.
Thanks, Stephen.
And Ved, real quickly, if anybody's interested in the exchange, I'll put a link for a registration there. We have Christian Perrin from the UK who brought peer support programs into the UK prisons. And he's done a slew of research in relationship to the power of peer support in prisons, but also now he's researching the opposite side of that, which is dirty employment, because the DOCs, prisons across the country are relying on peers to do the work that they're supposed to be doing. So ultimately what he's showing is by us being in these helping roles, we're actually supporting the prison industrial complex to still operate. So he's looking at it from different objectives, and anybody that's interested in social and criminal justice reform, it will be definitely an interesting conversation. So once again, thank you.
Yeah, I've been to the exchanges too, and they're pretty great. It's got some good guest speakers there. Got a whole warden on a call, so nobody's done that before.
And the commissioner.
Yeah, and the commissioner. Nobody's done that before either. I want to ask, like, I mean, if anybody wants to chime in, sure, but I would love to ask the community, like, what they would like to see from the Alliance. What is something that the Alliance is positioned to do? What are some things that we should consider moving forward? How can we serve the field better?
How you doing?
Hi, this is, oh, go ahead.
No, you can go, ma'am. I'll wait.
Oh, so yeah, my name is Karen. I'm in Chicago. So I would just ask, first of all, thank you. This is amazing. As I actually came to this work with somebody asking me to just help them, an incarcerated individual, get their 54 college credits transferred that they had earned. And because they were nationally accredited and not regionally accredited, they could not transfer those credits. You don't have a lot of choice about your accreditation when you're taking classes as an incarcerated student. That process has now taken me 3 years to figure out how to do. And what I have learned along the way is that it's really a full-time job to be an education access advocate for somebody who is incarcerated. It just takes so much time, and the system is just not set up to make it accessible. So thank you for doing this work, because I really felt that I was very much alone in this process and trying to navigate the field. What I thought would be a very easy Google search turned into 3 years of work. I would just ask, please don't forget about students that are incarcerated in the federal system. I know it's much smaller than the state systems, but there are just different barriers to access within the federal system, and they just don't often have the state level partnerships with local community colleges, because it is just such a geographically broad system. So they have to do sort of more of these one-off. And also really advocating for correspondence programs, especially with the frequency. I mean, I'm all for in-person programs as well, but correspondence gives a unique opportunity for students who maybe don't have a college program in their facility, or who maybe can't do the cohort model, because for somebody who already has significant number of credits, the cohort model really wouldn't work, because they'd be essentially starting all over again. And also it allows them to sort of work around the frequent lockdowns and so forth, as well as around punitive penalties that would disallow them access to the college program because of their sentence or because of some kind of disciplinary action. So it gives them a lot of autonomy that some of the college in prison partnerships can make them particularly vulnerable to. And as far as like moving forward, one of the things that I kind of think about is having a network of people who will be education advocates for people, like kind of a one-on-one sort of partnership where somebody can sign up to not just necessarily, pen pal with that person, which is great, but also to really be an education advocate who can help them make sure they get their books, make sure they get their course materials, how to figure out how to register, how to enroll. It's really a very, very cumbersome process. And even the schools who have traditionally offered college and prison programs for a very long time, they just seem completely overwhelmed. They're so backed up. Things that they say are going to take them 2 weeks to turn around will often end up taking them 4 to 6 months to turn around. And that's after following up and following up and following up and really being sort of the squeaky wheel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I want to respond specifically to the correspondence stuff too, around like, there's always been this kind of conversation in the field around like in person is the golden, that's the standard, right? And it's like, while it is, sometimes that's not possible. And like, so just because that's not possible doesn't mean that correspondence should be ruled out. Some of these prisons are in places that somebody's not going to drive an hour and have to come teach a class. You know what I mean? So like, we have to think about stuff like that in terms of, and so like, not shunning people because they're doing correspondence or they're doing something that's not in person. Like in person is what's preferred, but if that's not possible, somebody shouldn't be, shunned for that not being possible as well. So I know there's prisons that are in places where it's like, it's a prison and a gas station and there ain't nothing else out there. So that's stuff we need to think about when we're giving those sort of critiques as well. But yeah.
You doing, Vet?
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, how you guys doing? I attended the conference in where was it, St. Louis back in 2019, I want to say. And I want to say, I just want to, thank you guys again for still, keeping the fight going and pushing this fight. And I listened to what you said earlier, Ved, and it sounded like we're advocating for criminals, and I try to explain to people, prisons will never be closed. Our mission should be turning prisons to universities. You get where I'm coming from? That should be our #1 goal, is to turn these places where men go pretty much to wither away and make them active. We took the farm from the prison because it looked too antiquated and, it kind of reminded people of slave labor. And I try to tell people, we got to be less sensitive to that and more realistic because, I'm the career development specialist at a prison in West Virginia. And I mean, these men are literally poisoning themselves with the food they eat when they have all of this land around them, when they could be growing food. But it seems like, if they grow food, it's like you're eating better food than the population, which is not fair. I don't understand that. So when we talk about making money and paying a man in prison a good wage, these things are possible. But I think that the system has been ran by a bunch of people that never understood change. They don't want to understand change. So I think we have to change the people's mindset who runs prisons more than we have to change the inmates' mindsets. You get what I'm saying? So our mission should be trying to, help people understand that it's going to benefit society if we could turn prisons into universities instead of turning prisons into places of punishment. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, and I really appreciate the work you guys are doing, and please continue to do so. Yeah,
thanks for chiming in, Brian. And I mean, to your point about like changing the minds of people in administration and at the DOC level and at that level, I mean, that's something I'm interested in talking about at some point too, which is like understanding how HEP programs, especially people who are new in this field and who will be coming into this field who have never been around DOCs and corrections, how to work with DOC personnel, how to work with administration, how to understand and navigate that power dynamic when you're walking into a place and who has the keys to it, and how to sometimes put your ideology or your potential very strong political beliefs to the side so you can have access to students. Sometimes people come in to these prisons with a chip on their shoulder. I've said this before. but come into these prisons with a chip on their shoulder, hating the system and being mad at the system and wanting, you know, to use certain terms that might rub administration the wrong way sometimes. And what happens is the people who come in, the HEP programs, they get to go home, but the students who are inside get the suffer the consequences of that. They get the backlash because your professor or your HEP program came in here mad at us because they hate prison. And now people, the students in the back are the ones who are going to get mistreated or messed with, like in ways that
Right.
people who are HEP programs won't even understand. Like you will get just picked at just because I've seen people get picked at just because they have visitation from family members, and people who are correctional officers or whatnot might not have family members. So people are jealous of that sort of stuff. So like trying to teach HEP programs how to work with DOCs in a way that's constructive and doesn't create a tension that then ends up being, you know, falling back on the people who are currently incarcerated. So I've been a victim of that. You know, I've seen myself been like, oh yeah, well, you think you're going to go to class today? No, you know, just find a dumb reason for you not to, because they don't like your HEP instructor. They don't like your program, right? And so now a HEP instructor might get blacklisted. And now that was my favorite professor, and now they're not there anymore. Now I don't want to go to class anymore because I don't want to see this new person. I've been building a relationship with this person. Now you're going to send me somebody new. So like, there is a dynamic and there is a dissonance that people have to really acknowledge sometimes when you do have these beliefs and strong beliefs around the system, is that there is some dissonance walking into these spaces, and figuring out how to navigate that in a way that doesn't harm students and students' access to education is important. So
Definitely, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
going through that right now, Vet. I'm a career development specialist, and I build relationship with guys because I'm in here as an educator, as a social worker. I'm not here as a guard or so I have a different response from the students that I get. So I do see the reciprocity as well to a lot of students. As soon as they come to my class, they end up going to the hole for something minor, because you get where I'm coming from. So,
Yep.
And that's why I said I'm here for 5 years in this prison atmosphere, and I'm realizing that it's more of the the administration that needs educating on how to kind of grow with the time, because time has changed, change come with time, but I don't see the criminal injustice system growing with the change of time. You know what I mean? So I think we need to start trying to create some sort of some curriculum to maybe show the benefits to these administrators. You know what I'm saying? I think we need to tap into that too, because we're focused so much on inmates, and it's the administrations that's going to make the decisions to get us in schools, to help guys get the education they need or to get the services they need. So I think we need to start re-educating people that's on the administrative side. I think we could tap into that.
Yeah.
I think that's something the the National Higher Education in Prison arm could use, and we can use that and do something productive with that across the nation, because I think it's a nationwide issue.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, understanding how to have constructive relationships with the DOCs is complicated, and what the last thing we want to do is continue to put them in an adversarial role and create more of a divide. So like figuring out how sometimes we might have to put our political belief to the side for a moment just to have a better relationship with some of these systems people, is something that's worthy of discussion. So
thank you, brother.
Yeah, of course.
Ved, we had a question about the Preparing for Pell series that starts next week. Do you mind sharing just a bit about that?
Yeah, actually, I think Stephanie, I'm sorry to she's probably gonna hate me for doing this if she's in here, bringing her, making her talk in front of everybody. But Stephanie, if you're here, can you just give a quick word on that series that will be kicking off next week?
Sure.
Sorry.
That's okay. So the series is based on a series of reports that the Research Collaborative on Higher Education in Prison put out last October. And really what the series is intended to do is start a dialogue with everybody about those reports and see what people think of them, if this coincides with people's experience, if people have other challenges that they've seen come up in having students access Pell, and then the final webinar / workshop in the series is really designed to help us all think together about how we would like to see the Department of Ed shape further guidance beyond what has already been given so far. So that's why in the announcements, there have been links to the briefs that go along with the topics that we're talking about. And we'd love for people to engage with those and then let us know, come prepared to discuss them when we're all together starting next week.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Hey, Ved, I want to jump on for just a second and just really echo something that you said earlier, because it's really important when we talk about kind of advancing higher education in prison. One of the biggest problems that we have is research, right? And you talked about it a little bit, right? There's research kind of done at the institutional level. There's research done kind of at the policy level that's done by Vera and RTI and some of these organizations. And then there's kind of the gold standard, which is peer-reviewed journal articles at the highest level. And there are reasons that there's not a lot of research at that highest level. They're very systematic reasons. And I'm at one of the most prestigious schools in this country, and I can't even get IRB approval to do just even some of the basic research that would be important for this kind of work. And so I think that really making sure that people understand that there are systemic things in the way of really good quality research, and really pushing people within the Alliance to do good quality research will be such a huge thing moving forward, because the people that are making the decisions here, the policymakers and the legislators, that's what they go to when they're looking for evidence. And so that's the language we need to be speaking. And so if we're not, it's kind of it increases the uphill battle that we're already facing. So thanks for bringing that up, and I just want to echo how important that research piece of it is.
Yeah, Dr. Vest, I appreciate you saying that. And I think it's interesting that you said what you said around, like, that's the language that we have to speak. And like, that's kind of also goes back to what I was bringing up with relations with DOCs, like understanding the language sometimes that has to be spoken and the nuance of how to get some systems changes. And so sometimes, like, I'll put some of my stuff to the side to fit the format, to know, in order to get to some bigger goal. So in terms of like, I'd love to ask you that question though, really quick before we like kind of close, is what has been your biggest barriers in terms of getting some of the IRB approval and doing like that research at the highest level?
Well, first of all, the IRB is a black box, right? Every school has their own IRB, and that's really easy to get through, right? I can get through the Stanford IRB, I can get through the Boston University IRB, no problem, because the work is good. The problem is, and this is the black box, is that every state has their own different setup for the IRB for the prisons. Some of them is a state level IRB, some of them is a prisons systems level IRB. That's where it really gets very, very difficult. And so I'm working on a paper right now that just kind of lifts the veil on that this is ridiculous how many, the hoops that you have to jump through. That's where the problem is. Like CDCR has their own IRB here in California, and it is, I've been working on this project for 3 years. For someone like me that is in publish or perish mode, 3 years is an eternity when you're trying to get something even approved. And so anyways, and it's still not approved. I've been here, since the day I got here, I've been working on it with a researcher here named Allison Hamilton in the VA, Andrea Finley here in the VA, and it's still not even approved yet. And so that is by far the biggest issue, is the black box of IRB at, I would say, at the state level within the prison system.
And in response to that, Noah, like it's when I say like convene that, you know, when you ask like, what's the, you know, what do we see the Alliance doing in the next 5 years and et cetera, like convening the experts. So like, you know, there's a chance that there's people in the community, and I know there are people in the community who, you know, might not necessarily be in California, but have gone through similar stuff that might be able to help you navigate that too. Right. But like, if we're not convening and bringing these experts to the same table in the same rooms, in the same communities, it's hard. And that's one of the biggest pitfalls of research is like, it's sometimes it's great, but it's not engaged the right way. So like even putting researchers around each other is something that we're really wanting to do as well. So
yeah, and make no mistake about it, like it is a systemic thing. Like it is put in place by the powers that be to keep research out, quite honestly. Like I see it as a gatekeeping tool and not what it was intended to do, which was to protect, you know, obviously you want to protect people that are in prison from research that may harm them. So you know, and that's what these were put in place to do. But what I found is that it really is just used as a gatekeeping tool to stop all research, and it really has no beneficial or risk reduction, in my opinion.
yeah, I feel like there's definitely some people on this call too who have experienced that. I know I see in the crowd a few researchers that I know. So hopefully we can be a place where that conversation can be brought to light and it's in a different way. So there's more numbers around addressing some of this stuff. So I know you're at Stanford, so you're surrounded by like literally any and every resource. So it's, you know, I get that. No, we're coming up on time. Martin, I will take one more. How about one more? See, Martin.
Yeah, if I can, just appreciate what Dr. Vest was saying. I think it's important. What we started doing at my university at Cal State San Marcos here in North County, San Diego, is all our IRB processes too. They have faculty that join in to support IRB process, and we started putting in professors of faculty who are actually very much aligned with formerly incarcerated folks to actually streamline some of our IRB processes, or at least make it so it's not as like argumentative, because the original IRB folks that were there before some of our allies got in had like really heavy questions or pushback against our research modalities, vulnerable populations, and so on and so forth. And when we started putting in professors who understood the population, who maybe done research themselves, our IRB process became a little bit easier, right? There was still a little pushback, but there was people in place to help support and or argue on our part, right? The research we're doing. So just an idea. I also think that, you know, all universities, you know, we need to really have the right people in place in all departments with faculty, admin, all kinds of places. So it's worked so far here at Cal State San Marcos. Just an idea there. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thanks, Martin. We're at the top of the hour. So if anybody wants to send follow-up stuff, our emails can be found on our website. I'll drop mine here in the chat. I'm part of my goal here at the Alliance, and it's been to my detriment a bit, but making myself accessible as possible. So like if anybody wants to talk, my email's open. I'm make myself pretty accessible. So I'm always happy to hop on calls with anybody. And yeah, I think we're good to adjourn. I'll probably stay on for the next like 10 minutes if anybody wants to stay and talk. But I know it's been an hour and people have meetings, and staring at a screen for an hour, it's long. So yeah, feel free. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being a part of this conversation. Look out for messaging coming up around NCHEP. And we really look forward to engaging with the community around some of these projects that we outlined. So thank you all. And I'll be here for like the next 10 minutes. So.
Yeah, thanks, Ved. I put I got like 10 or 12 direct messages in my thing, and it was just too many people to follow along with. So I put my email in there to anyone that sent me a direct message. There was just too many of them for me to get in there and look at, but I put my email in there for anyone that wants to reach out to me.
I suspected some of the researchers on this call would message you immediately once you said that. So good. Cool.
Thanks.
That's what the community's for. Hope I see everybody in Atlanta too. Gina, what's up? I need to chat with you about some Shakespeare stuff too, anyways.
Yes, I always wanted to be talking about Shakespeare. So, I have a question. I probably should have asked it. But anyway, I just kind of listening to everything else that was being said was really valuable for me to listen to. But I do have this question about opportunities for schools that are interested in offering help to partner with each other. And what I'm thinking about is smaller schools like my own, trying to get more into this space, opportunities to partner with schools that are already established, that already have programs, as opposed to the model, what I'm familiar with, which is, schools have their own programs, colleges and universities have their own programs. So I'm just curious how many partnerships there are where schools, not, and what I'm talking about is like, not in the same like state university system, are there schools working together?
I can respond to that briefly.
Thank you.
I'm not sure where you are, but in Massachusetts, where I am, there's a consortium of colleges and universities that have come together that all offer higher ed courses or programs within the Massachusetts prison system. And it's been really effective in being able to link people together. So I'm not sure what state you're in, but it's something that's really been helpful in terms of building a community, and also for incarcerated students who get moved from one correctional facility to another in the midst of their higher education programs, to be able to have them have access to be able to transfer credits between these institutions and continue their studies as they are moved around.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I'm in Iowa, and there is a consortium. There's an Iowa consortium for higher ed in prison. It's not especially robust right now because none of us are getting in. Well, most of us are not getting into the prisons. So yeah, I mean, I think, that a consortial model is super powerful. My college, co-college, is part of a consortium. Associate Colleges in the Midwest, I think the consortial model is super powerful. I'm glad you have that in Massachusetts. I guess I was, wondering a little bit more about, rather than sort of like schools or programs being in communication with each other, schools are actually, and I don't know if this is different, maybe you are doing this in Massachusetts, but, actually being, sort of offering education through a partner schools program, if that makes sense as a distinction.
That is happening here.
Okay.
Okay. The consortium here got a bunch of money from Vera early on to expand the program and bring people together and stuff like that, which was obviously helpful, and it's become a more robust kind of consortium at this point. But certainly that has been one of the outcomes in the consortium work.
That's great. That's great to know of. Could I potentially reach out to you and to find out a little more?
Absolutely. I'll put my email in the chat.
That'd be great. Thank you. Yeah. And then if there are other, if there are other examples of that, would be super interested. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. And we're sending out, I think we sent out this survey again. We sent it out. Yeah, cool. So we sent that out for you too, Anne.
You did, and I appreciate it so much. And I got completely slammed with bots. So, which is just the way of the world these days. It just, when you put a survey out with a gift card attached, the bots go wild. But I'm also getting a lot of good responses intermingled with the bots, so I appreciate it.
Good. Okay. Sounds good. Well, anybody else, any other questions or whatnot? Happy to entertain those, or we can come to a close. Susie, Allison, feel free to jump in if there's anything else.
Not that I can think of right now, but I'm
Sean,
sure
look good.
I'll think of 10 things I wanted to talk about as soon as we close the Zoom out. So that's just the nature of the beast.
Got you. Okay, Sean, I saw you raise your hand. What's good?
I just threw something that like send it directly to you about just wondering the possibility moving forward of the whole internship, fellowship type stuff. Like how would other incarcerated people learn more about that, and about how to maybe become involved, apply, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, so in the short term right now, we're kind of in the planning process. So like building out the model. Some more information will come out about this, but I can make sure to get it directly to you as well. We're looking at making ourselves a landing spot for a fellowship or two, but we're also looking at finding other HEP programs, at least for now, using HEP programs because that's who's most proximate with people who are currently incarcerated. So making other HEP programs landing spots for internships and fellowships as well. And then we're looking at how to re-grant that money to incentivize HEP programs to host somebody who's a fellow or an intern as well. So I would say over the next 2 to 3 months, there will be a lot more information rolling out.
Okay.
We're still in the very, very incubator phase right now.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, that's good. It was an hour and 10 minutes. I hope everybody else here, I hope to see you all in Atlanta and before then, but definitely pull up to Atlanta and chat if you can.
Can I, how do people know? Like I was part of the debate for the last years.
Mhm.
But how would other people know about, like you said, you wanted to do the first part of it with incarcerated folks, or how would like I have a little bit more access in Summit, how would other people know and be able to participate if they wanted to?
So in terms of presenting at the conference, I think the main baseline criteria is having access to Zoom. So somebody can present. So having access to Zoom to be able to virtually dial in is how the presentations will be. In terms of like disseminating that information, I mean, if anybody wants to be added to the list, our email list, we can do that. So that can be forwarded to us. We can always add people to our email list, our media, anything that somebody wants to have contact with. In terms of finding out the criteria for submissions and presentations and things like that, the call for submissions is probably going to come out in the next 2 weeks, and that'll go out to the entire community. But it's right now we're weighing if it's, well, yeah, the call for submissions is going to go out, and then we'll find out more about what that process is going to be like. But in like 2 weeks, it'll go out. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I guess the only other part of it is, do you send out to some of the higher ed programs in prison so that they can disseminate it among students, or is that how you guys? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's how we'll send it out. And I mean, I would love to grow our email list. So that whoever we have on our email list, it's like 4,000 people right now. That's who it's going to go out to. But also, Sean, like if there's other places and people that you think should be forwarded to us, like send that email and information stuff along to us, and we can make sure to expand our network and reach to make sure that everybody gets that stuff. We are hoping we are encouraging and hoping that people who are running programs and have the ability to, we're hoping that they stream the inside part of the conference to people who are currently incarcerated too.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Man, I wanted to ask you something as far as the conference in Atlanta.
yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I was wondering if there was something that, you know, as far as my institution could do to be a part of that, you know, like you said, Zoom in, and we could create some sort of programming to hear our, you know, from our perspective here in West Virginia. So I made to email you about that and come up with some sort of schematics on that, right?
Please, do you all have access to Zoom? And
yeah, yeah, that'd be something that we do have access. We actually do have a Zoom club we do with some police officers on the outside, but I would just have to tie that to where to get them to be able to, you know, do a conference, like a big call down in Atlanta. We said November.
Yeah.
So we need to program something. All right, I'll be in contact with you.
Yeah, let me know. We can make it happen. We can make it
Definitely.
work.
I think something like that need to be done for sure.
Okay, cool. Let me know.
Definitely.
Rosie, I see your hand raised. Also, anybody here, don't feel obligated to stay. I don't want y'all to feel like you have to stay. So, Rosie.
Hi, everybody. Yes, I was wondering, would there be scholarship opportunities to attend NCHEP this year?
There will be. Right now, we're like looking and raising funds for people to attend, which means it would cover flight, hotel, and then we waive the registration fee. Right now, we're looking at least 50 scholarship opportunities, which covers like everything for somebody who wants to attend. And they're going to be prioritized to people who have been formerly incarcerated. And then we'll work from there. I mean, the goal is to hit like 100 scholarships, 75 to 100. But we're in the very, very early planning phases right now. So as we raise money, more scholarship opportunities will become available, hopefully. But at the very minimum, there's going to be 50 designated to people who were formerly incarcerated.
Great, thank you. I can't wait to apply.
Oh yeah, pull up. We got you. We got you. All right. Well, thanks for everybody who stayed this long and hung out with us. Christopher, are you Georgia Chep?
Yes, hi. Yes, I'm actually, I just came on back in November as the academic director for Georgia Chep. So I've been spending the last few months building relationships with a lot of the instructors around here, the programs, kind of doing the BGA reporting and stuff around here. So it's been really wonderful. So I'm really looking forward to November. And anybody that wants to reach out, we're happy to have everybody. And I'm very excited to make those contacts and meet everybody.
Nice. Yeah, we want to engage the city too. So we want the city to be engaged in what we're doing out there. So
that's awesome. I'm looking forward to it big time.
Awesome. All right, man. All right. Sean, send me some stuff if there's places and contacts that you think we should send this stuff to so we can cross-reference it with who's on our email list already to make sure that we're reaching the maximum amount of people as well.
All right, I'll do that.
Okay. Yeah, we can only send to like what we have. So we're always trying to grow that list, but we also don't want to send like unsolicited emails to people and fill up someone's mailbox with stuff. And they're like, well, how did they get my email? So, but yeah, happy to explain. We want to expand our network. I mean, I intend on seeing our email list probably double in the next like 2 years because of Pell reinstatement and all of that stuff. So 4,000 right now, I can easily see it jumping up to like 8,000 pretty fast. So yeah.
All right.
Is there any way that we could get information on your listserv? Because a lot of times there's things that come up and, you know, you want to exchange it with someone, but it's like, how do we get in touch with folks?
So the listserv was actually, somebody did ask us to take over the listserv, but we declined. So we are like an intermediary, but we are not in charge of the listserv. In terms of sharing stuff, you can always email stuff directly to me to share resources. We are also looking at, this is super like not happened yet at all, but we're looking at creating like a sort of a blog spot, HEP Reddit sort of forum area where people can exchange information, whether that's on policy, whether that's on research, whether that's on pedagogy, all these sorts of things. So elementary phase of talks around that, but creating like a more interactive space for people to exchange dialogue, information, and resources.
Thanks.
All right. We can close. I'll see everybody when I see you. All right. Thank you all. Let's see.